Aircraft flying into the United States from Western Africa and Central Africa posed a major threat of bringing Ebola into the United States. Now, it doesn't take rocket science to know that. People can carry it for 22 days now. It's spreading very quickly. It's killing 90+% of people that end up getting it. 50% if you get Western medical treatment right away. 55% or so. And that a lot of these people are also flying in from the Middle East and Africa, and that cases of people with Ebola were showing up in Saudi Arabia and other areas, that there was a good chance that the thousands of other than Mexicans, that's what it's called in the Border Patrol filings, being caught every month at different border sectors in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, that there's a good chance Ebola would also pass the border. And Geraldo Rivera came out and attacked a bunch of people, who's been on the show. I like a lot of what Geraldo does over the years. He exposed government drug dealing, you name it. But he basically came out and said it's racist against Hispanics if you don't want total open borders and there's no Ebola threat, is what he said. He said it was fear-mongering. And then taking his cue, as I mentioned earlier in the week, all over international media, the Associated Press, CBS News, not just Infowars.com or DrudgeReport.com, but Paul Watson and Kurt Nimmo and myself all got singled out. We all got singled out that we were fear-mongering about that Ebola could be going airborne and that it could come across the border or flying on an airplane. Well, now the president says that it's a major crisis and spiraling out of control. I have the quotes. I read them last segment. In fact, I'll read you the headline again with the close quote. AFP, Ebola crisis spiraling out of control, close quote, warns President Obama. Okay? So I just want to state again that being right first is not a bad thing. Knowing what you're talking about is not evil. And obviously, having a wide open border when you've got already drug-resistant tuberculosis and drug-immune tuberculosis and all these other diseases pouring across the southern border. There's a reason people don't go to South America or Central America unless you go to the nicer areas of Chile. It's because you got to take a bunch of shots and a bunch of medicine, and you still get sick a lot when you go down there. I mean, they got stuff that'll curl your hair. And we have no known immunity to it up here. People are pretty tough down there. They've been living around it for thousands of years, the Mesoamericans. But this issue of, hey, we might not want to just merge with the third world, they now even let people into the U.S. that have leprosy, wet, as it's called, transferable, communicable leprosy. But there's all these forced vaccines and checkpoints and surveillance and Homeland Security raiding swap meets where people are selling knockoff NFL coasters and SWAT team raids of a guy that has a 23-year-old Range Rover that they don't think has proper emission controls on it. That's all going on with a backdrop of war with Russia, war in the Middle East, dollar devaluation, Ebola spreading, China threatening to invade the Philippines again. Just the whole world's blowing up. And it's being activated by the globalists at the top to play all our countries off against each other. It's a global destabilization program. And then meanwhile, Dick Durbin says amnesty bill will help contain Ebola. It makes it even easier for illegals to come here. It gives amnesty to basically anybody who can get here. Even if you're a felon, you promise not to be a felon again. It's the same bill the Republicans wrote up with the Democrats 4 times under Bush, because the elite want a North American Union. Because then that new system, that new bureaucracy can circumvent all the other state laws and federal. It's not even a federal government we're dealing with. It's a captured system by the offshore corporations who are exempt from the taxes. That's back in the news today. Yesterday, Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois said that a comprehensive amnesty bill would help Americans contain the Ebola epidemic when it simply opens the border up even more. That is so ridiculous. Here's one out of Reuters. Citing security threat, Obama expands U.S. role fighting Ebola. Again, but does nothing with the border that he ordered basically completely opened back in January of this year. He doesn't have to act executively. He already has acted. So when they have the newscaster saying Obama's getting in trouble with the open borders lobby because he didn't open the borders, he has opened the borders for all intents and purposes. Now, to make it even more rich, DHS official claims border more secure than ever, but truth is opposite of what Obama administration suggests. In true Orwellian fashion, the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security claimed the border is more secure than ever, has been before. Speaking to a liberal think tank yesterday, Deputy Security Secretary Al Gerando Makerkos, I'm having trouble pronouncing that, suggested a dip in apprehensions of illegal immigrants youth last month, because they've just ordered him to let them go, meant the Obama administration has greatly strengthened border security, a fantasy considering that anyone, including ISIS, would have no problem walking to America. What we have achieved is tremendous progress, he claimed. I mean, this is all a sickening, sickening joke. And again, I want to explain. Yes, the war on terror is a hoax because it's aimed at gun owners, returning veterans, vets, libertarians, Christians, pro-lifers. Our government, the illegitimate part of it, is arming ISIS. And the border's wide open. So when they tell you, hey, you live in a post-9/11 world, we've got to spy on everything you do, track everything you do, increase the numbers of federalized police. They created the crisis. They ship in the drugs and then have asset forfeiture seizure taking cash out of your wallet when no drugs are found. Well, because it's a war on drugs. They introduced the crises to re-engineer the society and the civilization, period. They are converting us from a free society to a tyranny. Now, I want to get back into the ISIS situation and then open the phones up and take your calls on this issue and a lot more. But some of the stories up on Infowars.com. Poll, the latest from Gallup, trusted mass media at all-time low. Going to talk about what that means. There's another new article and video out. Man humiliated at TSA. Triggers on his bottle of Chanel Blue. New recruits flock to ISIS following Obama's speech. Dozens of children dead after UN gives tainted vaccine to rebel-held Syria. See, it's all about getting the UN into Iraq and all these places to shoot these kids up and sterilize them. And yeah, some are going to have a bad response and die. It's the way it goes. Just the way it goes. Well, it's just a footnote when it's a bunch of dead kids every day or two with vaccines. And the inserts say it can kill you, but it's no big deal. Go take your Gardasil shot. You know, you can get a lot of attention for yourself when you bury your kid. A lot of trendy moms out there, a lot of soccer moms might like that. DHS official claims border more secure than ever. I mentioned that. Call your representative today. Vote no on military aid to Syrian rebels. Washington blog story about that. Russia's come out and said free Syrian army no longer exists. Rebels are coordinating with terrorists. Well, that's what Colonel Schaefer said a week and a half ago here. He was up in a secret briefing on the Hill, and they said it's way above 65%. And then I talked to another little source, and they said in that briefing, 95%. The Congress knows that the Pentagon has told them that 95% is al-Qaeda, and they don't want, just like a year ago, they didn't want to openly back the rebels and give them air support. And the Pentagon is telling them in classified briefings right now, do not do this. There's no way these weapons won't go to al-Qaeda. And it's more of a wink and a nod. They just want to be on record not supporting this. Because as corrupt as the military brass is, this is really evil. I mean, they're going to go into Syria and kill every Christian and Jew they find and every non-radical Muslim, and they're going to kill literally hundreds of thousands more. And General Jack Dempsey, for all of his problems, went to Obama over a year ago and said, do not attack Syria, do not back up al-Qaeda. We're going to have a rebellion in the armed forces, and it's going to come out that you're aiding al-Qaeda. So that's why I've said it's a real moral moment for the U.S. military and for the FBI, for that matter, that are out arresting ISIS people. When I guarantee you that's not who they've been told to target. And they are being forced to release them or drop the cases. But they're trying to go after these real people. Just like before 9/11, the FBI was tracking the hijackers and trying to stop them, being ordered to stand down in Phoenix and in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and on and on and on. They're compartmentalized, though. Their hands are tied. So now Dempsey, in testimony yesterday, admitted that they know Arab allies who fund ISIS, because they all know the 28 pages is set to come out. And I've talked to Congressman Jones on air earlier this year. I've talked to Colonel Schaefer, and I've talked to other sources. And I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to say anymore, okay? But it's known what's in the 28 pages, and it's confirmed from our sources on air, congressmen,